All right, everybody's ready? Sorry. So I will call sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the date, September 24th, 2024, Town of Durham Select Board meeting to order. We have a quorum. Joe Roy and Joe Tom are both excused tonight. And so if we would stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Are there any amendments to the, well, put that next, I'm sorry. There is, we'd like to recognize Roxy Dobson, who passed away recently. She was an important member of the fire department family. I know that Chief Tripp and that organization had a moment of silence recently, so I won't read what he said. But if there's anybody here that wants to say anything, I would open the floor to that real quick. No? Okay. So are there any amendments to the agenda?
I don't have any.
Hearing none. Any public comment? No? All right, so old business. Discussion on the law enforcement survey question for the election. And before we get to that, I had, at our last meeting, we had the workshop regarding law enforcement, and there were a number of emails with questions, comments. And so I followed up on some of those, and I think this is the appropriate time to present them while we're discussing that. So first there was a comment about having other communities sort of patrol or stop patrol in Durham. They're not going to do that. They have insurance and other regulations, so that they're not going to do that. Two, I have spoken with one of the local police departments, and their estimate was, I think, all in about $440 an hour to patrol Durham. And that would not include the half-hour travel, half-hour back, even though that's clearly not the travel time. So that's a neighboring community. And so that was one of the suggestions. We talked to them. Again, I think I said at the last meeting, I spoke with Chief McGee, although I haven't followed up with him recently, but he seemed to imply that that was not a good option for Lisbon either. It would be more expensive. And then I did speak briefly with Will Pidden, the principal at the Durham Community School. The school resource officer does come before the year starts and meets with him and I believe the staff there. He did not express a great interest in having additional time, although if it were available, he would obviously take it. I did suggest that he reach out to either the school resource officer or the police chief of Freeport or somebody here if he thought that more was needed. So that is something that's available, and they are using to an extent. And so those are sort of the updates I've had. I don't know if there were any other.
So the only part of that I am curious about, $444 an hour basically for a neighboring, I'm just making sure I'm understanding what you said, a neighboring law enforcement department to
patrol
the area versus what the Androscoggin County Sheriff's told us would be $100 an hour. That's what they said in the meeting, correct?
I believe so, yeah. For a 4-hour minimum.
For 4-hour minimums.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And so my question, okay, are you done? That was,
yeah.
Thank you, that clarified what do you have something?
No.
Are we gonna do you want to talk about the survey? I mean,
The survey question, yeah, I just
Okay.
wanted
yep,
to get that out first, because I did say that I would address the questions.
okay,
I think we had a lot of for and against, but there were some questions or comments that I did want to clarify.
Yeah.
And like I did say, I think I said, those officers driving through town, whether that's because they live here or they had to go through Durham, will not stop and patrol Durham.
of course.
So
think
that was a suggestion.
Right.
And that's something that, I appreciate it, but it's just not going to happen.
Right.
So,
While we were in that meeting, I did type out all of the questions or comment, whatever, basically like headliners of what everyone was saying in their questions or their comments at that meeting. And I think that, that's something that I would like for the board to look at, and then going into the November election, have that be part of, of those, kind of put them together in a way that kind of like the frequently asked question thing, where we're answering some of those repetitive questions that were asked at our first meeting and again at that meeting, so that we can kind of answer those what seem to be general questions that people keep repeating.
yep.
And then still do the survey ahead of the November election, if people still think that that's, based on our outcome of the meeting that we just had.
Maybe I have to ask questions. I've never come to these meetings.
Not at this time, no.
No, okay.
No.
I'm like, wait, what?
So, I think that's a good idea. I think what needs to happen is, for you to type that up and send it to, I think Joe's going to be back at the next meeting. So Joe and Jerry for the next meeting, which is October 8th.
Right,
And that way they can put it on the agenda and we can discuss it.
okay,
So I think we have 8 days before the meeting is when the agenda items are due.
From you folks.
From us,
Yes, yeah.
So the Monday before, so the 30th,
yeah.
is
that's
that
fine. I
right?
can
So
work on it
that's
this weekend.
Monday.
Yeah, I can work on it the weekend, it's fine.
And so I think that's something we can discuss and put up. But to get back to sort of the topic on the agenda was specifically about the survey question. And so Jerry reached out to our attorney, and she suggested that the question read, should the select board negotiate an agreement with the Anscombe County Sheriff's Department that would provide police service to the town of Durham to be presented to a later town meeting for approval? And so I have some comments on that, but I will open it up before.
I always go first. Debbie, do you want to go first?
I thought our initial issue was, should we spend any more time evaluating what our options are, not necessarily jumping to, signing a contract with the sheriff's department? Because there was some good feedback at the meeting, and I think going through your notes and all of that, I'm not so sure we're ready for this particular question yet.
So I think there was some other options. I'm not sure what other options were the local, the neighboring communities. The chief that I spoke with said he was getting the same question from communities 45 minutes away. So they're naming their price. So I think what the sheriff has presented is going to be the most cost effective. So I think following up maybe with a couple other neighboring towns, but I think we're going to get the same result. So I think along those lines, if it would make you feel, if it would be more appropriate to say, instead of an agreement with the Anscombe County Sheriff's Department, if we just said with a law enforcement agency, and that way we're not closing the door on other options if something else would arise.
I think I agree with like what Debbie's saying in terms of how specific this states in terms of that. I also feel that the direction that we will end up finding to be most cost effective if we do that. I think this is very specific, and I would rather see something that reads something like, should the select board instead of the select board negotiate an agreement, would be, should the select board continue to pursue
Yes, or explore, yeah.
additional law enforcement coverage in the town of Durham, something like that.
Yes, I agree, yeah.
So can I tell you my suggestion?
Yes.
I think if we're going to present it to the town, it has to be with the grant. And I think that with the grant, if what was said is accurate, and I believe it to be, you know, we would get the first year completely paid for the most, I think for the most part, maybe not every penny, but for the most part. The second year, we pay 20%, 25%, then 50%, then 75%, then the whole 100%. And so I think a question about, should the select board pursue applying for the COPS grant, and if awarded the grant, then further negotiate with a law enforcement agency for coverage for the term of the grant in Durham.
With the
Because-
follow-up to still get it approved at
Well,
another
yes,
meeting?
yes.
The
I mean,
same
that-
language
that would
again?
have, I think that would
It has
have to
to
happen,
happen,
so
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think adding that in for clarification.
So
But-
I'm just, right, we're just going back and
Yep.
forth about this, is that my only concern around that is that while I agree and I want the grant to be able to pursue this, I think that question pigeonholes it to only continuing if the grant happens. And maybe there are people in town that would want us to consider pursuing it with or without the grant.
And so we could have a question too.
I'm not trying to make things more
No,
difficult. I'm
no,
just
I
saying
understand,
don't-
and I agree, and so if we, I think we do sort of a two-part question.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't receive the grant, would you be interested in the select board further negotiating?
Right. Yeah.
Does that, I mean, that leaves both doors open, but also, I think for me, and I should note, I did ask Jerry, when he and I met last week, about some expenses coming off. And so, I think we've paid the last equipment bond payment, which was $174,000 or so. So that money's coming off this next budget. It wouldn't cover the full amount. It would be nice not to have to do that, obviously, but that would also help, negate some of the increase in
And the
taxes.
trio savings, eventually,
And
whenever that
there's, yeah,
happens.
so there's other savings,
Yeah.
but that's the big one, I think, right now.
Can we just rework the wording of this
Yeah.
into something that, I mean, we need a vote tonight, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So
'Cause when did
should-
when did the,
October 7th,
October 7th?
in-house absentee
Yeah.
voting starts.
Okay.
Continue to explore, pursue, you're the lawyer, maybe you should do the wording.
Yep.
Should the select board continue to additional law enforcement coverage in the town of,
Pursue additional law enforcement coverage in the town of Durham. Do you?
I thought you said pursue the grant.
we're gonna have two.
I think
Oh, right,
having
right.
sort of a two-part one.
Yep.
Or, well, if we said pursue law enforcement coverage that,
is
and,
co-
and should law enforcement coverage be contingent on receiving the COPS grant? I mean, I don't,
Should the select board continue to
I think-
pursue additional or just plain law enforcement coverage?
additional.
Additional.
I also, I forgot to mention, the county manager I spoke with, and I was going to send an email to see if our representative on the county commission, could raise at one of their meetings, how to get Durham more coverage with what's out there. The county manager is, a former employee of the sheriff's department, and he and I spoke briefly, but we couldn't come up with any quick ideas, so I'm not sure what's out there, and I'm not sure if the commissioners could force the sheriff's department to do something like that, but it's something that I also thought we should raise. And so that's an email that I'm not sure if, Jerry, you want to send, if Joe wants to send, or if you want me to send. But that's another topic that could be raised on this issue.
Yeah, I think a resident sent a mail on that too. It's like, are we sure that we're getting the coverage that we should be getting based on just paying the county taxes?
Yeah, and I think, so the answer I got to a similar question was, we go where the calls are. And most of the calls come from other towns in the county, which I guess is a good thing. We're not getting those, we're not having those necessary problems, but my response to that was, that's because you're not here as much. But they're basing it on just calls and not, the speeding. So, I guess there's pros and cons to that for us. But, so that's something I think, I don't know if we should invite him to a meeting to address that, if we should have just a private conversation. If you want to do that, I'm happy to send the email if you'd like.
To Jeff.
To Jeff, and copy Brian Ames, who's our
Yep.
Our representative on the commission.
Would you like it to be a meeting or just a,
I think a meeting or a conversation,
Okay.
and I'm happy, I'm over there quite often, and I'm in that area, so I'm happy to have the conversation with him about what we're discussing,
okay,
but I don't want to do that without the board's permission, and I don't want to go behind, I'm
Right.
going behind your back either.
yeah, no, you weren't going behind mine, but what I would do is, if this is something the board would like you to do, I will send an email letting him know that you'll be stopping by to talk about this issue.
And I'm totally fine with you doing that. My only suggestion would be is that whatever the outcome of that conversation is that it is memorialized in
Yep.
writing so that we can add it to the agenda and it can be
Yep.
part of like a discovery process if
I-
it needed to be.
I think what he's gonna have to do is put it on one of their agenda meetings, so and he'll let us know, and hopefully one of us can go
Okay.
and present it. I think ideally what would happen is we would present it to the county commissioners, and they would have that conversation.
Yeah.
But I think getting them, I put it in Jeff's ear just so he knew we were having this discussion. He said the sheriff had told him he was down here discussing things. So,
So I think this, what I've written up here, I think also encompasses the fact that continues this conversation, right? And it's
Yep.
not pigeonholed into that. So what I've written here, and you guys tell me if you like this or not. Should the select board continue to pursue additional law enforcement coverage to service the town of Durham to be presented at a later town meeting for approval? So I basically just changed the beginning of what the lawyer said to that. And that pursue additional law enforcement coverage could mean contracting with the Androscoggin Sheriff for additional resources, but it could also mean, advocating for, I just think that this leaves a little bit of a broader scope for us to be able to work within.
yep, and I think that negates the need for a second question.
Okay?
Because then I think if people want us to do that, then I think we pursue it, and then the board at a later date would have to determine, do we go forward without the grant or not?
Based on the avenue
Right.
that we take.
Right,
The later town meeting for approval gets us there.
Right.
so there's no final decisions. I think, I'm okay with,
Should we say presented to what did I say? Durham, to be presented to a later town meeting? Do you think she meant presented at a later town meting?
Yeah.
Presented
Yeah.
at a later town meeting for approval? Approval and I just, cause everything comes down to money, right? Meeting for approval and budget approval, or meeting for,
I
no?
don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
I think approval,
Means
means approval.
Spending.
I know
We
it's,
have to-
I know it's two places that we have to, I just don't think a lot of residents understand that if they vote yes at town meeting, it also still has to pass the budget process. But that's something that we can address at the table if people have questions about it. Okay, everybody good with that?
Yeah, could you please send that to me by
Yes.
email? That'd
Yep.
be super. Thank you.
We should vote on that.
We should.
I'm sorry,
I was-
I'm quarterbacking, I'll be
It's
quiet.
fine. I was about to say the same
Okay.
thing. Is there a motion to approve the language of the advisory question that I think would be titled Article 1 at the November election, stating, should the select board continue to pursue additional law enforcement coverage to service the town of Durham, to be presented at a later town meeting for approval?
So moved.
Yep, I'll second.
Second? All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's good. Opens us up.
I think that's a good question,
Yeah.
so. Next, tying up loose ends.
Okay, tying up loose
So I
ends.
think this is, Debbie, thank you for doing this
Yes.
worksheet. And so, again, Jerry and I met, and so some of these things, I'm going to tell you that we put on agendas at future meetings.
Okay, that's
And
good. We
so-
can just document maybe what the next step is.
Yep, and
And
so.
then change the meeting date.
So, I'll go through them quickly, and
Yep.
so the first one is tools, finance, software proposal change, project plan. We discussed that at our last meeting, or 2 meetings ago. And so Jerry, I think that's something that can get updated in your manager's report. And so you just give us a status of that.
The only thing I would say is, Joe had some good comments there when we voted on that,
Yep.
right? Are we not obligated to look at the contract or anything? It's like we just voted based on the discussion and, how you plan on implementing it. I mean, maybe you just have it, and we don't need to know
Yeah.
anything about all the
That's-
details?
That's,
Is that where
so
we're good?
that's
Good.
how we delegate all that to Jerry by the
Good,
vote.
okay.
Yep. I mean, if it's a contract that we want to review, I think we'd have to reserve that in the vote.
Okay,
So I think that's a topic that Jerry should bring up when things come up during his manager's report, because it's important to
okay,
everybody.
yeah.
Point of clarity, you're gonna update tonight on that? Yes, okay,
Yep.
so
Or
that,
I will tonight. Next
And then-
meeting I may not, because there may not be any updates.
Right.
But I'll update as we go, but I.
okay,
that
so in
works,
next steps,
ongoing.
you wanna put, how do you wanna put this?
I think just manager report.
Okay.
Reporting progress, as you see
Yeah,
we need
as
to.
I get, right.
Right. And then I think just in the next meeting date, it just says ongoing.
Okay.
So then, as you need to
Right,
talk.
so my notes just say manager report as info comes in.
Yep,
Goal 2024, the fiscal year change plan, next steps, that's something we're discussing at the 10-8 meeting.
okay,
And so Jerry and I talked, we kind of looked at the next, what do we have, 4 meetings, including tonight, so next 3 meetings, and I think we had agreed that that's the meeting, that's an issue that all 5 of us should be here for. And so the
yes.
plan is, the next meeting, we should all be here and can have that discussion.
Yeah, I just want to say something on that. So for me personally, I feel like I understand the issue a lot better if I'm looking at, I don't know, a graphic or something. I don't understand how all the budget process works and what's the prerequisites and who has to wait for, what's next. And actually, someone sent an email to us about something about this budget business as well. So I feel just coming into a discussion on the topic, for me, I'm not grasping enough about how it all plays itself out. And
The
I'd like to
timeline.
see, I'd like to see like the timeline of, what's our current state and where we're going and, how it all plays itself together.
So it's your budget, so you all can set the timeline. And I'll get the information to you according to that timeline.
So I think what Debbie would say would be helpful, and I understand this as a new board member, like last year, and the only reason why I felt confident in the budget process is because I was on the budget committee before I was on the select board. So like currently, let's just take our example currently, is that the capital improvement committee starts whatever month of 2024, then that goes, right? And so a timeline of like, let's say it starts in November of 2024, and then we're finalized by March and we're voting in April. If we're changing to the fiscal year, how that timeline changes if we're going to the 18-month budget. What is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and then the results of that, which we talked about last time, is we get 2 tax bills and, you know, I just feel like I need to see like a summary in writing. If we need to do that, again, I'll volunteer. If I get the information, I can put it in a way that I think,
Well, things have changed, right? I mean, you used to go to the CIP committee, but now we're funding capital on a
Right, I was just
consistent-
using that as an example.
Well, I know, but that's why things have changed, so as a board, we got to discuss how we're going to do that
right,
how we
right.
do that moving forward and what you need, and, I know the attorney, I'm asking the attorney to come in on November 12th to just go over the roles and responsibilities, budget processes that, you know, she's familiar with, to get you all familiar with how it works in most communities with this form of government, because that's changed, right?
Yeah.
But the process hasn't really, right? So that's a discussion you all have to have.
Right. So the things that like Mark was saying about how if we go to a fiscal year, right, then we would be the department heads would be putting a budget together at this time frame, like whatever month
When?
of the year we're talking about. And then that would come to the select board at whenever it comes to us. And then it gets voted on at town meeting. And then the first tax bills would be due at what point, and then the second tax bills would be due at what point. I think just being able to see that in writing
Yeah.
would be helpful for everybody to be able to wrap their brains around.
Right, and I think that's an exercise that we all do, and it doesn't necessarily just come from me. I mean, because the budget is really your budget, so I'll work with you on it, but the process has changed a little bit, so we all gotta get on the same page and figure out when you want
Like
this
start
stuff
at our
by.
deadline and work our way backwards.
Right,
Okay.
right, and
Is that something that's appropriate to do during that meeting?
I think we talk about what it means, the pros and cons, and what we
Right.
need to do to move forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
Because that's something that could be presented at town meeting in April, or it could be done next year. You know, we have to figure out how, the timeline, because the timeline's important, because let's not forget, you know, we're doing the reevaluation. You heard Portland is
Oh,
doing another one,
yes.
and so, you know, there are gonna be concerns. At the same time, you know, I think we have to do what we have to do, and we're required to do that. We're way behind on that, so we're gonna take a hit. We're all gonna feel it. And so, you know, do we wanna do that at the same time, as change it to a fiscal year? Probably not. So I think all of that is open for discussion when we discuss this next meeting.
Okay.
And I think on the 12th, the attorney's coming in to sort of talk about roles and responsibilities. And based on our conversation, I think she has some comments about how to make the process maybe match other communities with the same form of government that we
Right.
have, and how things have changed, but we have not changed the budget review process.
right,
Got it.
and that's on November 12th?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
that's the next step, 11-12 attorney overview. I still think even in prep for the 10-8 agenda item, we should have something in front of us.
Well,
Just
I
a
think the
timeline
issue
laid out.
I think the issue is that there's nothing being presented, it's a discussion again.
Right,
So I think if you're looking for what that means, it means, you know, for example, if we're gonna do it next year, our budget that we would present to the town in the 2025 town meeting would be for 18 months instead of 12 months. So the budget would go from 10 million, whatever, to 15. And it would cover, because it would cover the additional 6 months. The revenue would go from the same amount. How we come up with the budget, wouldn't change at this point.
Okay, so
So
on the,
I'm not sure, so there's really, I don't know, I guess
Okay.
I'm not clear as to what you would want to write in, because I think,
so on the meeting on the 8th, would it just be a line on the agenda?
it would be a
And
line
that's
on the
it?
agenda, and
No
we're gonna discuss
additional information, okay.
pros, cons, and, what it would look like. Because I think we had those discussions 2 meetings ago, I think.
Okay, I mean, I can live with that. For me, it's not ideal the way my mind works and to be able to see it and making sure we're all on the same page. But that's okay. I can
Yeah.
do myself a little bit of
I think,
homework.
I think
So
we'll
on the 8th,
volunteer.
I won't be here.
Okay.
I've got a prep for a colonoscopy on Wednesday,
Okay,
so.
we'll have that.
So I'll have everything ready for you.
You'll be
Jessica's-
excused.
Yeah, you don't want me here, that's for sure, not that night.
We'll have Heather at the board writing stuff down for us, because she's got the best handwriting.
I'll type that
But,
night.
but yeah, I just want to just reiterate, where this is an 18-month budget, the process is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to drag out a little bit longer anyway, so it ain't going to be your traditional timeline, because there's more going to be involved for everybody to get their head around how this works if you vote to extend the.
And so when do you need an answer from us? When are the department heads required to get their budgets to you?
I'd like to have the department heads have their budget to me by the end of November, beginning of December.
Okay.
I mean, I think for us, it's gonna be fairly simple. I mean, it's not that hard for us. I think it's gonna be the other folks that are gonna
Yep,
struggle.
yep. Okay, does that make, and then
That
this is a
works.
discussion we can also, when the attorney's here, we can have further
Right.
discussion, that meeting.
Yep.
Yeah. Because part of that also, I believe will end up changing our town meeting date. We're not,
Not this time.
No.
not
No.
this time, but as an implication of a fiscal year change,
Yeah.
that has to be part of the conversation. Because
Yes.
it will.
It would move
Yeah.
to June.
Yeah, it will move to June, but not until 2026.
If we
Okay.
did it that way.
So,
Does that need to go to a town vote to change that?
We
Or
don't
not?
I don't-
have to.
no.
They, and we can
But
talk to
it would be-
Kristen about.
It would be part of the vote on, I think when we put it out there, everyone's gonna know that the town meeting will move.
Yeah.
right.
You're saying changing to a fiscal year or town meeting moving?
Fiscal year,
A change into a fiscal year and the impact, I mean,
Are you saying does changing to a fiscal year have to go to a town vote?
yes, that's my question.
No.
No.
It does not.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good.
so, the agricultural working group, that's on the agenda for tonight.
Yep.
And I think at some point, we might ask for board members to volunteer. There had been a conversation about board members volunteering for these other committees. And so this goes into the solid waste committee, which is next. So that you're our liaison to that.
Yep.
And so the updates would come from your board meeting, your board member reports.
Okay, so the expectation would be the select board representative on whatever committee will update the board during our during our reporting?
Yes.
Okay, and it's not a requirement for the chair of that committee to get on the agenda and present and all of that?
Unless they have something to present to us.
Okay,
They would not need to. The expectation, I think, would be
okay,
for our
That works.
liaison to each committee, to report what they deem fit and necessary for us to know.
all right.
I think we do have the option, like the planning board chair is coming to present to the board, because that isn't a liaison necessarily situation for that one. I think if there was something big happening, or the solid waste committee had questions that they wanted answered from us, then that would be an appropriate time for that chair to come. But if it's a recap of a meeting that you went to and like what their progress is, then you doing the update in your report is appropriate. But
Okay.
if the committee needs something from the board as a whole, then it would be time for the chair to come.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Or for
if
like
there's,
a charter approval, like the solid waste committee's gonna do that, update the charter and,
well, I don't think we need to approve the charter. I think if they, if they need, if there's something that needs our
Yep,
vote, our
approval.
support,
Yep.
our approval,
Okay,
then I think they need to come. If there's something they want to bring to our attention, they can either do that through you or ask Jerry to be put on the agenda.
okay, yep.
And so I think that goes for the next two items on the list, were related to the solid waste committee. I think if we want to have a discussion about, the summary of tasks, that's something that just, we need to ask to be put on the agenda.
Yeah, that's okay, because I took that email to the meeting.
Okay.
And so that one, we can just line off this report.
And then I think, again, the next one, the,
Yeah.
town manager evaluation, we had talked about doing that the 8th. Jerry, in our discussion, was very gracious and understanding about our delay and was not holding that against us. So thank you for that. But we can't do it the 8th because you won't be here.
Right.
And so based on the schedule that you and I went over, I think there's a meeting on the 22nd. And right now, we did not put any,
Is there?
we moved the 29th to,
No, it's
We
the
moved to 29th.
we left it on the 29th.
Right.
See, that's where I'm confused. So there's nothing on the 29th.
No, we are meeting on the 29th, I think.
Right, right.
Yes.
But there's nothing on our list for agenda items, or big ticket agenda
Right,
items for that
gotcha.
night. So since you'll be here, and I think hopefully at this point, all 5 of us will be here, that might be a good night to do it, the 29th?
I don't
Yeah.
think Joe Roy is here the 29th,
Oh,
but
you're right.
Well, he's
Right.
the one that wanted it on the 29th.
he said that I remember him specifically saying that he was willing to delegate that to the rest of the group to be able to get that done.
So
But he did say he would not be here the 29th.
You're right, he did. So he and I will meet and we'll prepare something
Okay.
before the 29th.
So
But I think you've waited long enough,
Yep.
and I think it's time for us to have that discussion.
All right. I plan on being here the 29th, but I have knee replacement surgery on the 14th, so I'm not quite sure if I'll be ready to get out of the house at that point.
Okay.
But my plan so far is,
Okay, if you're not going to be here, that might be something I don't wanna push it back, but I think at least, I'd like
the
4
more,
of us.
yeah, okay.
Or it's something that you and I can discuss on the phone and we can have the conversation ahead of time. So we'll discuss that if that issue arises.
Okay. So there was 3 things on tonight's agenda that got removed because Joe wasn't going to be here. So just inform me of when you want to discuss those.
We'll get to those, I think, yeah,
Okay.
we'll get to those.
All right.
The next was the ordinance policies, the land use articles, that,
Yes. We spend a lot of time on that at the one meeting.
yes. And so, I think, to me, that's another important one that needs to be done relatively quickly.
Do we have room on the 8th? That's quick, though. But do we have room on the 8th?
I'm not sure what's going on the
The
Now.
8th, we have, right now, we just have, so one of the other items was the communication policy.
Yep.
That's something, I think,
I have a draft ready to go. I'll send it to you.
you send it to us and
Yeah.
we'll discuss it at that meeting.
But what do we think the next steps are for this policy markup? Because when we went over it, we were not, I think, all on the same page of the markup that we received, and so,
I think we need to put it on for another discussion, for us to follow up and have the conversations with ourselves, have George here, to answer questions.
Right. What these are supposed to do is give you an update on where they are and where they're headed before they go to have a public hearing to see if you're all on board, where they've landed on all 3 of those things that got removed from tonight's meeting.
So this, what you're talking about right now, this is resource protection that we're being updated on.
Yep.
The Historic District Commission articles.
Yeah, that's
That-
yeah,
that's-
that's
yeah.
that's what that
that's what
is.
this one is.
Right? I'm saying that got removed from tonight's
Right.
meeting.
And the battery
Because,
storage.
and then what? Oh, the
battery
battery storage. Those are the 3 things that you're talking about.
Right.
Okay, and that's what you're asking to have rescheduled.
Right.
And we are all going to be at the meeting on October 8th.
Yes.
And I think that we all agreed that those were all big ticket items that having all 5 members of the board here was important to do,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Is that, because right now, what I'm looking at, we only have Kristen on the 8th, unless there's other things that I'm not aware of.
No, Chris is coming
Kristen's
on
on the
November
12th.
12th.
We
Oh.
have the fiscal year change
Fiscal year
plan
change.
discussion,
Oh, but Kristen's not coming for that.
right.
Oh, okay, sorry, that's my misunderstanding. Okay, so the fiscal year change conversation is on the 8th, and that's all we have on the 8th for agenda items right now?
For the big ticket
now,
agenda items,
yeah.
yes.
So are people comfortable moving the land use conversation to the 8th?
That was gonna be my suggestion, but I also wanted to put, I think we need to put, this was moved at the request of our chair,
Right.
because he was unable to come tonight and had some questions about, these issues that he has familiarity with.
And he'll
wanted to
be at the
present
meeting
for,
on
and
the
He will
8th.
be present on the 8th.
That's okay.
Okay,
So-
Yeah,
okay.
Okay, so again, on that, the last time we were here, we had a markup from the historic committee. So are we just gonna pull that markup back out and look at it and be prepared as a board member to comment one way, I mean, are we
Yes.
deciding something? Or
Comment,
just
and we
comment
can
and
decide
provide
to vote.
comment back to the group?
And we can vote on it if people want to. If not, we can table it and address it another meeting.
Okay.
Can I add something to this right now? Can I say something? We've received a lengthy question request from the Historic District Commission. And that is, do you feel that those are related to this or not related to this?
They're not related.
Not
And so I
related.
think,
Okay,
I think something that the committees need to remember is that to get onto the agenda, they need to email Jerry, and Jerry will put it on the agenda for us. So that's the plan, and so Jerry will find time when he deems it appropriate.
well, I think it goes to the chair of the board because, right, and me, and if the board if the chair wants it on there for that meeting, I'm glad they put it on. I don't wanna put something on there without the chair of the board knowing that it's being, gonna be discussed.
Yeah, I guess my intent was to email you and you have the discussion
Yeah,
with,
okay.
with whoever is gonna run a meeting and put it on, so yes,
Okay,
yes. But I think that's a more appropriate email to send to you and not to the entire board.
yeah.
That's my feeling, but we'll have our attorney here in a couple of weeks
Yeah,
and we
you
can have that
ask,
conversation.
because the select board does oversee and appoint, and has authority over the boards and committees, so, I'm happy to put it on the agenda, whatever you would like, I mean, because it really is your meeting. So I don't wanna dictate your meetings, what you talk about and that sort of stuff, not without your approval.
Right. And so we'll discuss that at the 10-8 meeting. The next is the town policies, the fee schedule policy finalized, confirmed, post to website. So what we've updated this year is on the website. I think if there are further changes, that needs to get sent to Joe and Jerry to be put on a meeting and to be included for the rest of us at that meeting as part of our agenda packet.
it's on our agenda tonight.
Right. And so, but I think, well, I'll save that conversation.
Okay.
And then we talked about the communication policy. We'll hopefully have a review to look at our next meeting. The website improvement, I think Jerry's working on that, and that's,
Well, so we've talked about the search engine, and that's really what if the board wants a search engine, we'll put it on there. But I need that to come from the board, not an individual.
We
on
need
the
a search
board.
engine. I mean, I was trying to find.
So we
the
need to have a
noise
motion and a
policy.
vote.
You
Oh.
do, so, cause we don't wanna get into the habit of one board member, saying, do this and do that, because that's not how it works.
Right.
And just know that you're just putting a Google search on that. It's not searching the website. So when somebody uses that search engine and they put in Eureka rental fees, if they get the wrong form and fill it out, we're gonna honor the lower fee. So that's why they don't put search engines on websites because it doesn't search the website, it searches Google.
Well, I mean, sounds like some kind of flaw with the, we have website searches in other areas.
Well, Chris was here the other day and explained it, so, but I'm happy to put it on there for you. I just want you to understand what
So-
you're
Well,
up
I-
against.
So,
You go.
the issue that was presented to us was the search engine in our website will not search the website, but will search the internet, so it will come up with old pages without potentially outdated information.
That's correct.
And so I think, I have some concerns
That's a problem.
about that.
Yep.
And so I think that this is a longer discussion, and because it's not on the agenda tonight, it should be on an agenda. I think that, Sherry, what I would appreciate when we have this discussion is coming up with alternatives. Are there issues that the town gets called about?
Right.
Are there forums, where do you find this, and you frequently ask questions, or links somewhere?
Yeah, I can ask the staff. I won't.
I feel like there are ways to address, they use the old form, well, the fees can be found on the website, so you should be able to look at that first. And so honoring the lower fee, I could debate that with you all night, but it's not worth it. So I think we need to try to come up with alternatives first.
Yeah, I
Sounds
don't
good,
think that's a
yeah.
policy I support.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that the professionals that develop these websites are recommending A. And if you want to go with B, I'm happy to put B up there.
Yeah, and we can have a discussion about it in a meeting. I
Yeah.
think maybe perhaps what needs to happen is that we're advocating to our service provider that they need to create a search engine that searches the website. Maybe that's where the improvement lies, is advocating for a service that we need them to address.
And that may come at a cost above and beyond what we've paid for what we have.
And if that's an option, that's something that you could present when we have that discussion, because I'd like to know if there is an upgrade to have to pay for that, what does that look like? Because maybe that's worth it and maybe it's not, but I don't know without having that information.
Or it could simply even just be a link, can't find something, hit here and ask the question and we'll respond to you in 24 hours, or something like that. And then it just starts building a frequently asked questions list. Yeah.
That's something Kimberly could do. So I think, to me, that would be my suggestion as well, is you can't find what you're looking for, make it,
Yeah.
however, that if it's an email or just a note to,
Can I ask, are you folks getting complaints from folks?
Yes.
I tried to find something
Okay.
over the weekend, I couldn't find it.
I agree. I mean, I feel like I'm the master of our website. I probably use our website more than anybody else who lives here, and I find it very difficult to find information that I'm looking for. Not in terms of like, I can go to our agenda tab, I can find our packet. I love that we upload our whole packet. I think there are some great things that are happening. That's not my complaint. My complaint is when I'm trying to do research to be able to look back, like to find the marijuana question when we did the straw poll. That is, I cannot find that by using our website only to find that information. And I should be able to. If we had a search engine that searched our website, I would be able to.
so I think we're
Yeah,
going astray,
Yeah.
and we've gone, but I think this is something,
Yeah.
you know what's being requested.
Yeah.
So if you could work on that. My
Okay.
guess is that's a Kimberly question, and she can hopefully give us some suggestions, but I have concerns about the search engine, and we can talk pros and cons when we have other options.
Okay, so next steps is Jerry
Yep,
talk with his folks and,
and then we've talked about the next steps for the law enforcement coverage.
so just.
Can we pause for 1 second? So you said next steps is Jerry give us feedback. I think that should read, put an agenda, like create an
Yes.
agenda item. I think when we're expecting that it's gonna show up on the agenda, we need to say that here, so Jerry knows that we're expecting to see that on a future agenda. not just have him report out about it. Is that fair? Do you think that makes sense? If we have a task on our list and we want to have a further discussion about it?
Oh.
Because I think that's
Yeah,
what
to
happened.
discuss it.
That's what the disconnect was about the fee schedule. I kept bringing up the fee schedule in my manager report and it wasn't on the agenda, it wasn't on the agenda, it wasn't on the agenda. If we want it to be an agenda item, I think this list needs to reflect that.
I think if there's going to be a discussion, it needs to be an agenda item.
Okay.
So I guess the need for it to be an agenda item though is going to be based on sort of Jerry's feedback.
I think that you have to look at section 13 in your procedures
Right.
manual on how agenda items get put on a select board meeting. And I would follow those, so you're always on the same, you're using the same. And I sent that this
Right.
week.
So I think when we're looking for feedback from Jerry, he presents it to us. And if we need to amend the agenda at that meeting, we should have the information. I think ahead of the meeting. And so we could amend the agenda at the beginning of the meeting to include that if there needs to be a discussion. If it's the search engine or this, and you know, Jerry says, I'm gonna try this, I also think we're in the weeds here on the website, which is something that really is delegated to Jerry and staff. So I think we're putting suggestions out there and we should have Jerry run with it, come up with a suggestion, and if we don't like it, then we can give him further guidance. So I think we're sort of walking on that edge of what our role is a concern I have on this issue. But I am only filling in, and so it's not my decision what goes on the agenda every meeting, so.
I will look into it, and I have a feeling I'm gonna get the same answer that I got the last time we looked into it, that it's a Google search. If you would like it, we can do it.
I think what I'm looking for though is, so I haven't necessarily had an issue finding things. Maybe it's because I'm not looking for the right things, but I think if you could, discuss other options for helping people who can't find things on the website.
Yeah, and I'll need to know what those are to be able to help them.
Right, but I think you can come up with a concept first and how we're gonna implement it. And then individually, board members or the public can reach out to you and say, here are the issues we've had. And then, someone can introduce those into that issue, or you can
Right.
put them in a frequently asked questions
Right.
site.
Because staff, we haven't gotten any feedback from anybody on the website, good, bad, or indifferent.
There has been public comment about it a couple of times.
There was a long time ago when it first started.
Where was the comment, though?
Here at the meeting, someone made a public comment about the difficulty in searching the website. And then I had brought up a resident complaint about not being able to figure out how to pay their car registration online. And then my own lack of being able to search for things. I mean, I do think that there are people there is concern around it.
Okay,
So, but I think we spent way
Yes,
too
I
much
agree.
time on it tonight. So I think, Jerry, if you can work with Kimberly to come up, or have Kimberly, I don't want to tell you what to do, but if you can come up with an option that it is better than the search engine, because I think that's a terrible idea based on the feedback we've gotten. But there have to be better options, and I think Debbie's suggestion of a note is a good one to explore. And that's the one that I would urge you to the extent that I'm able to urge you to do anything. Okay, I think that is our list for the loose ends that was presented.
I just want to make one comment. The fee schedule that was posted on the website, can we make sure, I think the last time I looked at it, I felt like maybe it didn't have a date or an approval or something I felt missing to me, I think, on that. Could you just double check it and see? I mean, I think we need to get in the mode where any policies and stuff, you know, that are posted, you know, I'd like to see it have a comment header or approval dates, and some do and some don't, but anything recently posted, we should make sure it does.
All right,
Thank you for that.
so fee schedule discussion. So this is, I think part of the issue for me, and I think I've mentioned it before, is these generic agenda items coming in not prepared, not knowing what to expect. So, again, I'm here last meeting tonight and the 29th. And then, so, it's really up to Joe, I think, but I think for me, what I would prefer, not only as the acting chair, but also as a member is we get a list of suggestions, what we're looking for, so that we can have a discussion. So, throwing that out there, Heather, I know this is your item. Mm-hmm. And so,
So the last time that we discussed the fee schedule, the thing that we had left off that was the Eureka Center fee structure. We didn't, that, I had presented a table, and we didn't go there because that meeting was really getting extended for a long period of time. I would like to address the Eureka Center fee schedule, or fee structure. And then the other thing that I don't have any documentation to include to prepare ahead of time, other than, again, expressing concern for work that is taking place around town without proper permitting. And we've seen a huge project happen over the last 2 weeks, that's come to light. And the remedy for that is for that applicant to pay the permitting fee was $125, and the after the fact permit fee is $125. $125 fine for what that person has done for work in town without permitting is it's pennies compared to what they have done. And so I think we do not need to have the discussion tonight, but I am raising a significant concern again around the lack of violation or after the fact fee that exists to deter these types of things from happening. $125 is nothing for the person to be able to create what they have created, and in fact have also ruined a town road in doing it that we just recently paved. And I have real serious concerns around this, and I feel like this needs to be addressed.
so, I don't wanna talk about specific, because that is not our role. I think talking about
It was an
adding,
example.
adding a deterrence for not obtaining a certificate or whatever is something we can discuss. I also think there has to be some other remedy for this, so they have to go through the planning board to get everything approved. They have to do certain things, so the penalty is something we could discuss, but not specifics.
So maybe like a compliance policy. I mean, having the fee schedule here, but, having a policy, which maybe we do, I don't know, but of what happens if you don't get the permits.
I think in my mind, when I'm looking at this, right, and I'm thinking about things like someone, well, I'm gonna use myself as an example, okay, because then it's specific to me, right? We were building what I thought was going to be a 3-season porch, but I was basically enclosing my existing deck. And then I found this amazing window, and I decided to turn that into a room instead of an enclosed porch. I didn't go get a permit to do that. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't it was an accident. So a double permit fee for building in that situation, that's, I think, an appropriate situation for that. What I'm talking about having happened, I think it needs to be a violation or a after the fact permit fee based on the section where the non-compliance has happened. building a road is very different than changing screened walls into enclosed walls, right? That's what I would like for us to address. And have that be here, instead of just a overall encompassing after the fact permit fee is double, when our fees are already so incredibly low. To me, that section, should read differently based on what section the non-compliance falls under.
Do you have suggestions?
Seems reasonable.
I think that if someone creates a road without a permit in town, the fee should definitely be $10,000. And I think that they should be barred from further work for at least a year.
I'm just trying to pull up the fee schedule, because I don't have that right in front of me.
I have it right here, if you want to look at it.
I think we need to be careful about how we,
So right here is where this is this, right? Plus appropriate administration fee for permit application. And then again, this is all just, everything is just encompassed under, after the fact permit fee is double the current permit fee. Like it's just overall encompassing of everything.
so how would you,
I mean, I think this needs to be a discussion for a bigger night. I mean, another night, because this is a big discussion, but like $125 for,
I don't disagree, and
and the fact that like town, this example that I'm using is not the only example of this, not by a long shot.
so I think, for me, I don't know, I wanna know how other towns have worded something like this, what other towns are doing. Because obviously I've never built a road or anything like that, so I don't know, I'm not versed enough to know what a penalty should be for that type of violation. So I think we need to have more information, and whether that's something you want to gather, or,
I'd also like, I mean, when Kristen's here, I think that's an appropriate question to ask Kristen.
I agree, but I think we need to have something to present.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of different reasons why we could say, if we said 10% of the expenses to do whatever was done,
Well,
that
and
might not-
also,
so-
like, how does that get maybe it's a violation notice. I guess that's the
Right.
other thing, is like, I don't know what our current mechanism is
Well-
when someone
Right.
does something like that.
They pay double, right?
Right.
So you can change the fee schedule, you have that authority to do that, that's your policy right there.
And that's the only, that's the only recourse that we have for that's ridiculous. That needs to change. That is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
That's
I
what
feel
you have
very,
in your-
very strongly about it.
That's what it's written in the
So
ordinance.
can we task you
Yes.
with coming up?
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel
No,
like
it's
I'm
fine.
tasking everybody but myself, but I just,
No, that's fine.
um,
And so I'm gonna put it together. I'd like to ask Kristen the question, what other towns use for remedies, what our current remedy, I'll come to you so I can get what, if any other avenue besides the double, I mean, we have a violation notice, I
Stop work
believe.
violation, we
A
have.
stop work violation, okay. I guess I need to understand better what our violation, what the ordinance says about work that's being done in violation of the ordinance, right? Because I mean, that was, or what I did was, right? Is that something that would be in violation of our ordinance? Yes.
Did you get,
No, I didn't get a building permit to do it.
did you pay double?
I did after, they came to me.
That's right, so that's how that works.
Yeah. Good.
I mean,
Okay.
that's just how that works, that's the way your policy's written now, if you want, I mean, you are policy folks, so
Right.
you can work on that,
Which is that's why I'm asking to address
so
it.
I think that's something that we need to have information in front of us of what different examples.
Okay, can we add that to our task list, Debbie, please? And you can put me on it, and then Jerry, I'll come and have a conversation with you and then get something ready for the meeting that Kristen will be at.
Okay.
That's November 11th,
Well,
12th, sorry. Okay, thank you.
was that the only?
The other thing was Eureka, but we don't have to talk about that tonight. I know there's a lot of other stuff that we need to get to. This was the
Well-
real heavy hitter for me.
Okay, so do you want, okay, well, we could try to add the Eureka, Jerry, to the 12th also, the Eureka fee schedule.
Well, I think the other thing too is that like if we are gonna make changes, like how we did it before, we did the electrical because the code enforcement officer felt really strongly about the electrical portion, right? So we got to that. Then we did all the other parts of it, you know, sort of collectively. So we weren't making 15 different changes at 15 different times. I'm okay grouping changes together as long as they're on the radar. So when we get to the point where we're potentially gonna make this change, we could do Eureka at the same time. So we're doing like grouped in changes instead of 15 different changes.
So we could put it on the 12th with the others, with a discussion about
Yes.
violations.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, I think you're growing that evening's meeting exponentially, because, I mean, there's a lot to discuss just in the roles and procedures and
Right.
budgetary goals and talking budgets. I mean, so,
Our aspirations are here, and eventually we'll
You
get
know.
there. So, but I think putting it and giving it a timeline, and then if we need to move it at that meeting, if we go too long,
so.
then we can at least ask some of the questions and then have another meeting to discuss it.
Okay,
But I think grouping them together and putting them on at the same time just makes sense to me, so
Okay, so just November, you wanna talk about fee schedule?
yep.
well, are you gonna have the draft of the violation policy, or whatever we wanna call it, and the Eureka fee schedule
Yeah.
finalizing?
And what else on the 12th? Just so I can write it down, do you remember?
We were gonna do the fee schedule and,
The conversation with Kristen about the fiscal or the roles,
Yeah,
that's on the 12th.
yeah,
those are the two things that I have on the 12th.
okay,
Yeah.
so just those two things? That's, all
That's
right.
what I have.
I mean, the roles and responsibilities are gonna be.
Well, and if we don't get to.
It's kinda like an orientation, because I think it's important that Deb go through one,
Yes.
so she,
I also, if we don't get to the district, the Historic District Commission long questions before the 12th, I think that you should put that on the 12th.
well, that's all going on October 8th.
That's on the 8th, and I think if we
That's
don't,
the ordinance. I'm talking about the other email that was sent that had a lot of
Oh,
questions.
the other one?
If that doesn't get on an agenda before November 12th, I think it needs to be on the agenda
Okay,
that night.
Are you all gonna talk to your chair too, or is this?
Yes, that's why we're trying to create this
Okay,
working
all right.
document so that everyone has access to this and can see what the timeline looks like
so my suggestion would be to put that conversation on the 29th,
of,
October,
Oh.
October, because as of right now, we don't have anything else.
okay.
Any big ticket items on,
I'm sorry, which one on the 10th, the land ordinance?
No, the Historic District Commission's request, they sent that
yeah.
email that had like 8 questions. And we need to have that conversation in a meeting. And so right now, can you add that to the list to put on
29th.
the 29th of October?
Then you have the report from George about
Yep.
all that information, okay?
all right. We ready to move on from the fee
Yes,
schedule?
thank you.
And other discussions?
Okay.
All right. New business, discussion on agriculture committee. Is there anybody here who wants to, any members who want to come discuss? Come on up. I guess. You guys, it's all, okay. So,
Well, if you want to sit in the front row,
If
or
you
you're
could-
more than welcome to come to the table, and we'll just turn that microphone on so that the camera can
if you
pick
could
you
just
up.
push the button on the front of the microphone. Sure, if you just hold it for a second, it will turn on and,
And thank you for sitting through all of our organizational hullabaloo. We're gonna get there.
I copied the email
Yes.
that George sent to the principal, so do you have it?
Is it in this
It's
or
not
no?
gonna be in that.
Okay, I'm gonna pull it up on my computer.
Josh?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry, for doing
Yeah.
that.
All right, so, thank you again. Do you want to just introduce yourselves real quick?
Sure. You want to do
Where-
it this way?
However you want to do
Right
it.
to left, left to right, whatever.
That's-
I'm Gary Goodrich, and I'm the owner of Repanema Farm.
I'm Jenny Montgomery. I work at Repaneva in the store, and I also own a house here in Durham and some property.
I'm Jonah Furtig-Bird, and I'm a co-owner of Celebration Tree Farm Wellness Center. I also live there at 125 Bowie Hill Road.
Dave Colson, I have a farm property on the Davis Road, no longer a commercial operation, but interested in seeing farms in the town be successful.
Thank you. So, we were presented with the charter. Is that what you want to discuss tonight?
Yeah, so I think, just to give some background, this spring, a group of us got together. We had, I think, two or three meetings. We had 20 or so folks that were there, farmers and farm advocates and gardeners in the community. And that was after, with support from Maine Farmland Trust, which has a program doing support for basically for agricultural commissions or committees in different towns. So Thatcher Carter was there, done some outreach along with myself and others, had done outreach to various folks. And so we had those conversations, and our understanding from the spring was to work on developing a draft charter to share with you all. The charter that we shared in the springtime was developed based off of both looking at, I think, the Conservation Commission's charter, but also looking at some agricultural commission charters from other towns as well. There's, I think, maybe a handful or so that exist right now in other communities in Maine. And so we presented that this spring, and then our understanding was kind of, you all discussed it, and then, yeah, kind of a plan of like, okay, we don't want to start moving forward on that without really, making sure that, seeing what the status of that committee or commission or whatever it ends up being with the town. And then farming season also got busy, so we all, people got busy with stuff. So now we're really trying to come back to, get aligned with the select board, ideally approve the charter and figure out the role of the agricultural committee with the town. So.
So, is there anything in the charter you propose that you want to draw our attention to first before I turn it over to see if anybody has questions? Anything?
I don't think there's anything particularly that's, to draw attention to. I think, just that advising and recommending to the select board, planning board, conservation commission, other municipal committees. Really, that, I think one, important thing to note is obviously that, in the comprehensive plan of 2018, it really calls for an agricultural and forestry committee. We thought it was better to just focus on agriculture because we'll all have a tree farm. I'm not like a forestry, we're farmers overall. So, there was a forestry group that wanted to form, we support that too. But yeah, so felt, implementing or, advancing strategies and actions that are in the comprehensive plan, as well as, looking at anything around land use ordinances for provisions that relate to farming, both to identify barriers, but also identify opportunities, really recognizing the value of maintaining the rural character of Durham. Farming is a key component of that. How do we, not only prevent any of those obstacles, but also really support this as a farming community. Any of you have any other things?
Well, there are also, that's the overall plan, and the whole idea, of course, is to sort of organize it so that there's a framework for talking about specifics. So, we did have sort of a poster session where it's like, well, what are the important things to the farmers? And everybody wrote the different questions, right? We had
Yeah.
15 or 20 questions, and we sort of ranked them, and so there'll be an agenda which we want to present, but as we understood it, we needed to have a platform to do that, which is this commission. So unless I misunderstood that,
No?
that's how I saw it, and then we can present those items, because, and again, you didn't have those specifics in there.
Yeah,
At
no,
this
I mean,
point.
yeah, because,
But I mean,
yeah,
you
and then I
know.
think that's covered kind of under that, like, you know, looking at what the recommendations in the comprehensive plan. I mean, we basically went, like what he was referring to, we went through all the recommendations that were there and said, you know, as a group, what are some things we think, you know, would be most important? Because
Yeah.
couldn't do all of them
I mean,
right away, so, yeah.
I mean, I'll throw out one thing that was on there, there's several, and there's a variety of opinions on what's the most important. Each farmer's gonna give you a different opinion, I'll tell you that. And one was, what is a farm? You know, it's not an easy question.
Yeah,
It's not an easy question these days.
yeah.
So that's, you know, and, you know, because again, there's certain rules for a farm and there's fees, there's all kinds of things for a farm, and it's like, well, what is a farm now?
Yeah.
Because farmers struggle in Maine, and the farms are just going down and down and down every year. And diversification.
Fascinating question. I'm sorry, I'm distracted by that, but I just had an issue looking up kind of sort of what is a motor vehicle, but that's even more interesting. What is a farm? That's,
It's different today than it was, you know, 50 years ago. It's not the same. Farms have to be more diversified.
yeah, I think
To
we all
survive.
agree that the work is important. So, anything
Can I say
else?
something? Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks. Just to add to that, as just a person who's relatively new to the area and been working at this farm and live, you know, 3 miles away. So I'm in Durham. Just being able to observe, and I'm working in the store actually at the moment, but just be able to observe how important this store is becoming to the community. It's the only, I guess, Replanova and the Get and Go, but just in terms of what it's providing in terms of organic and healthy food and what it's doing. And we don't know what this might sound out there, but we don't know what the future holds. And the fact that we have our own food sources with Old Crow, Steve's not here tonight, but you know, he's very, very passionate about this. And Replanova, it's just and what you guys are offering, you know, it's just vital to our health and our community. And obviously we want it to be supported. I want it to be supported. I would be crushed, you know, if anything were to happen or subdivisions went up or something went up that would prevent us from being able to do that. And it's such a rare thing, and it's such a beautiful thing for Maine, you know, to be able to offer us. You know, there are not many places that can do this anymore. And we hear about farms going under and you know, so basically I think it should just be you know, re-looked at in terms of how important it is going forward and into the future. And yeah, so I'm passionate about it, and I hope that the community can become more involved in it too.
I
Not
think
for
when we did-
commercial reasons, but just for our health, yeah.
When we did our comprehensive plan,
Yeah.
it was overwhelming that there was a fabric
Yeah.
that exists of how important it is to this community. Look, it makes me a little bit emotional.
Yeah,
So,
I agree with you.
and it's not, obviously, it's not just Replanova and the big, you know, there's so many, as we know, farmers out there and people offering their vegetables and their eggs, and everyone is doing something. And just to be able to strengthen that fabric, I think it's just really important.
so I have, I think, 4 questions about the charter that's been presented, but I want to see if you have any questions or comments about it.
I am a hair splitter, as you know, and so this feels a little bit vague for me in terms of rule, like I'm looking at some of our other groups, our other commissions or committees, and they're very specific in terms of like their officer appointments and what the roles of the officers are, and in terms of like, again, being able to go back and create discovery of how things exist, I think is important. And so those record-keeping procedures and those things that really lie with the officers of the group are important, I think, in terms of our being able to look back at our history and figure out how we arrive at the outcomes that we do. And so this feels vague in terms of that type of stuff, like the organization and membership.
Yeah.
Just that generalization that comprised of 5 to 12 members approved for 3-year term by the select board. I'd just like to see some more detail around that. Are we going into that kind of conversation about this?
We're having a conversation about the
Okay.
charter, and so if you have questions, comments,
That would be my immediate feedback about the structure of it. The other thing, and this may be more for us than for you, or maybe it's a question, I don't know. We have appointment applications for commissions and committees, and so it feels like your group is established already. But if this were to become a town, which I think is important, it's outlined in the commission. I said this when you guys were here in April, that I felt like we were putting the cart before the horse, because, well, I don't disagree with what you've done here. There is a town process that has to be followed in order for people to be appointed to committees.
Yeah.
And so while you're already established, that we have to kind of like take a step back from that to be able to go through that process correctly.
Yeah, maybe, I mean, we're not really established.
Yes, we
I
are.
mean,
Yes, we are.
we've met a few times, so I mean, just to say, we've
Yeah.
met a few times.
We're
On the,
trying to get
on the
established.
prompting, actually, of both George and Alan. I mean, it wouldn't have happened without citizens coming together and saying,
Right.
I mean, it was in the comprehensive
Right.
plan, but it didn't happen.
Right.
So it took citizens coming together to say, hey, let's make it happen. So that's why we actually, I mean, part of, again, pausing over the summertime was like, been trying to kind of get back this meeting, so we can get, let's get this all clear, we're
Yep.
in sync with one another.
Right.
And, I mean, and
What a
as far as,
process.
and then, like I said, I mean, just, it's like, let's get whatever additional things we need in the charter. We can add officers, that's easy.
I think
That's
where
fine.
it starts is that we put out, again, because this was the other thing, is that if we're doing this and we're initiating it from the town, it has to be open to
Yeah.
every resident to be able to join or to seek
Apply to
appointment,
join, yeah.
right? And so the select board would say, just like we did with the solid waste committee, we're creating an agricultural commission, if that's what we're gonna call it. What are we calling it? I don't know. And whatever the comprehensive plan says we're gonna call it. And then those appointment applications are open to everyone. And obviously, we would encourage all of you to apply, but we do have to make that available to all the residents in town to be able to do. And
We want
then,
that.
and then once those people are appointed, then the framework starts.
So basically, where it says right there in the charter right now, just changing it to members be appointed by the select board instead of, right now it says approved, so change it to appointed by.
I think it would behoove you to look at the way that the other commissions have worded their existence and then kind of, not copy and paste because it's
Yeah.
different, but that follows the process that is necessary.
Gotcha.
so I don't think that the select board necessarily approves your charter, the charter either. Because that has to be approved by the committee. I think that we have to sort of come up with an outline of the number, that's up to us, the terms, the length of the term. I think because this is not a short-term, tell us what's best for solid waste, but this is hopefully a long-term, forever committee that's gonna be around as long as the town is. I think starting out with staggered terms. So I think commenting on the agenda like that, but I do, once it's a committee we appoint, But I think the final charter, the final paper is voted on by the committee. Am I mistaken in that?
Yeah, I think the board would want to review
Right.
their bylaws or charter to make sure that it's in line with what
Yeah,
we're
I think-
expecting from.
We give direction. We give direction of what we're looking for, and I think,
But we're not gonna say you have to meet every other week.
Yeah,
We're not,
yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah,
those
yeah.
types of things aren't
Right,
what we're
that's
trying to
good.
micromanage. I think what I was trying to micromanage, for lack of a better word, is just making sure in terms of the documenting process that you have officers in existence and just like making sure that you're hitting those details. We're not gonna tell you how often you have to meet unless we're talking about ordinance language changes and we need to have those changes by certain dates to be able to get to town meeting, you know, that type of stuff.
Right.
Then we may be saying, you're not meeting often enough for us to hit this deadline, like you need to you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But to what Josh is saying is we're not gonna micromanage the inner workings of how the group works. I think the structure though, we do kind of outline.
the roles and responsibilities section is something I think that's based on what our direction is. But the procedures they follow to meet those roles and responsibilities is not up to the select board.
So can I just
Is
ask a
how-
question to clarify? You guys are saying that we need to form a committee that is, yeah, can you just go over that, like,
So we
really
will
simple.
come up with a, well, because it's here, roles and responsibilities of this committee,
okay,
and then announce an application period. And then when that period closes at the next meeting, we would then appoint X number of members to the committee.
Those that are interested.
Right, whoever's
people are
applied.
gonna apply, and then you
Yeah.
guys choose who's
Yeah.
gonna be?
Yeah, but that's the
You
way
would
it
all
is.
apply.
How do you guys come up with the roles and responsibilities?
So we kind of give the direction of what we're looking for out of the committee. And then
like, what would be an
if that
example of
changes.
that? I'm just
Well, for me,
curious.
it's essentially what if I were to present it right now, I would essentially go through the roles and responsibilities you have here. I think, you know, I would, you know, like, act as an advisory and recommending body to the select board, planning board, conservation commission, and other municipal committees and town staff on matters relating to agriculture in our community. You know, I think that's the biggest thing, is so that, you know, if there's something in front of the planning board that affects agriculture, they would ask you input. How is this going to affect it,
Right.
long-term, short-term,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. If
Okay.
we're amending ordinances, come to you, make suggestions, this is what we're thinking, make a suggestion on what it would look like, and tell us how it would affect X, Y, Z. So that, I think, work on implementing strategies and actions identified, I would say, in the current comprehensive plan, so we don't have a date, you don't have to change it every time. That, again, I think that
Right.
periodically review the plan and land use ordinances for provisions that relate to farming in order to identify potential barriers. I think we would list those as sort of,
And how many
this-
people are there again?
well, that would be, we'd have to choose, so I think you said 5 to 12. Normally, I'm a lower end person, but I think a higher end at this, so I would be, I think an odd number, I would be at 9 or 11.
Yeah.
I think the more minds, I think, because I think this
Yeah.
could be,
I would maybe suggest, not necessarily like having the lower threshold just in case because I wouldn't want the committee to not be able to function if we have under 9.
oh, no,
Oh, yeah.
no, this is the number of members,
Okay.
and then you would decide
5
the
to-
quorum.
yeah,
You would decide the
5.
quorum, so if it's
Yeah.
9,
Might be
the quorum would be
50%.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Um,
that's the thing, we're up here, and
Yeah,
then we
okay.
give you sort of the direction of what we're looking for, and then you implement
Yeah.
it, sort of like what we do with Jerry. Here's what we want, for example, the website. There are issues with the website, search engine, not a good idea, come up with something.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the direction we'd give, and then you come back and present it, or
Right.
to one of the other committees or boards.
So just a question, Heather, you mentioned having the roles. Did you see, under procedures, it does say a chair and a secretary.
Oh, I'm sorry.
B
I
is a
apologize.
detailed work plan, timeline,
Sorry, let me read that again.
yeah. And then E is all meetings of the working group must be posted with required public notice and open to public, appropriate level of public participation. F is written minutes, so, and then G is the annual report. So I just want to make sure, like.
Thank you for
yeah,
pointing that out. I
okay,
apologize.
That's there, yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting that we don't have a template for
Yes,
these.
well, this is part of the thing where we guys had to sit through our conversation and the policy, right, is that we created the solid waste committee. We're kind of like working backwards into these things, but yes, a template should exist when we do these things of what, and then
Right, yeah.
how it relates to our land use ordinance, right? If our land use ordinance or our comprehensive plan says that when we create a committee, this is how it's, blah, blah, blah. This goes back to the like organizational structure of the town and what we're slowly chipping away
How
at.
it relates to other committees.
Right, right. Because then what we don't want to have happen is what the situation that we're in right now with our Historic District Commission, where we're not sure whose role
Right.
and responsibility it is to advise the code enforcement officer or the planning board and who's the decision maker and what happens if they disagree. Like that stuff's not clear currently. And so we don't want to get into a situation where we're saying, it says, the comprehensive plan says, the town should form a farming and forestry advisory board with members from local farms and forestry businesses to advise the town, helping guide town policies in a farm-friendly and forestry-friendly way. Okay, well, what does advisory board mean in terms of decision-making? If the planning board has an application before them for something and it's in an area that's adjacent or abutting a farm or, that type of thing, then how does that role impact that application? That's not currently documented. That might be a task for you
Right.
as a way to address the land use ordinance in order to help preserve agriculture, right? I just went off on a big tangent, but
No, thank you.
So
that's what we're, as a board, that's a specific
what you
issue
need.
that we're trying to address. And there's so many of those because it's been so long since the updating has happened. It's too much for one board to tackle. And so now we're trying to bring in resources to help make that happen.
So I think our next step is, I don't think we approve the charter. I think we've made our comments, and the committee, or whatever we call it in the future, can finalize that. I think we need to put on a meeting coming up. This is our expectation for the board, the number, and then get the application process started. Because I think it's important.
Are you
work.
uncomfortable doing that tonight? I'm not uncomfortable saying, like, taking a vote to start the appointment application, the creation of the group, because number one, everybody was here in April, we had the conversation. Number two, it's part of the comprehensive plan.
Yep.
I don't wanna speak for everybody else or quarterback again, but I'm not uncomfortable saying as a board with the three of us here that we're going to create a commission committee. What I think it should be a commission, not a committee, personally, because I think it's a long term, and I think committees shouldn't be called short term. Commissions should be long term, but
That, I have no problem doing it tonight.
I'm good.
If somebody wants to
Make
put
a
out,
motion.
yeah.
we'll make a motion, but also I think we need to come up with the, I don't wanna say roles and responsibility, the vision of what we're seeking out of this commission, or committee, or board, or whatever we're gonna call it, and also a name.
Right.
So
So
the roles
So-
and responsibilities might be, as she just explained, might be important. I wasn't saying it wasn't. I was just
No.
curious what you needed, which it sounds like you need specific, like kind of reference points, maybe potentially from members. I don't know, to address, like you said, with the historical commission, that's all.
And so I would be okay if someone wanted to make the motion with a certain number of members approved for a certain number of years. And if you even said you just wanted to incorporate the roles and responsibilities, I'm not sure what else we would include. I think that's a good list. And I think other things can fall under each one of
Right.
those
Yeah.
that's listed there, so I think, I think that encompasses,
What are people's thoughts on agricultural commission?
that's fine.
Does that work?
You gotta-
Oh, yeah, sure.
You gotta live with this.
We're good.
Jerry, do you have any, is
Yeah,
that,
that's up to you folks.
okay? What are
So
we
should-
thinking,
should we make
9?
a- I think you should make a motion with,
I was gonna try to hit all the things you just talked about.
nine is fine.
Debbie, are you feeling 9? And then they're gonna determine what their quorum is.
Yep, 9 voting members, and you can have as.
Or we
many
could do
people.
7 voting members and 2 alternates. What did we do for solid waste? We did 5,
5 and 7.
We did
5 and 2 alternates.
5 and 2 alternates.
We're okay with a higher number, I think.
Okay.
I think, I mean,
I
they've got
say
20 people with,
nine.
The more, the more.
Well, I don't know how much
The more the
effort-
merrier.
yeah, I
Oh,
think,
yeah, there's more of us.
I think incorporating that, I mean, because I think you're gonna wanna incorporate a lot of different groups and
Yeah.
so.
You're not afraid of getting 11 different definitions of a farm and then.
Well,
No, I welcome,
nine,
I welcome them all, because, you know, there's.
I say
it's quite
9
broad-
and
it's quite broad
9
these
voting
days.
members and 2 alternates,
I
and
think
then
that
you can
sounds
have a bunch
great.
of other people
I
too,
think
there,
that's-
it's fine.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds
I'm
good.
born of
Staggered
So you-
appoint,
I think
staggered terms.
Staggered, so 4 for 3 years, 4 for 2 years, and
Oh,
3
I
for
see.
1 year.
So you gotta change, Joe.
Yep.
Do I need my motion to be that specific? Can I just say staggered terms? Or,
I think you should,
I think
okay,
I think
4 for
specific-
3 years, 4 for what?
2
2
and 3
years?
for 1 year,
Is that
Yeah.
typical?
Yeah.
I think. And
Yeah,
then
that's good, I mean, help.
and then-
3
and then
for-
we-
what did you
we-
say?
3 for 1 year.
Sorry.
And then we have to keep track of terms
Right.
coming up and put up the call for applications again. So
Okay.
this is something, that if we, ideally, we could get started, you know,
Mhm.
beginning of the
gonna-
year, and that way, the first of every year, we're,
Yeah.
I'm
you
gonna
know,
make a
we're-
shot at a motion and then I might
Okay.
have to amend it. Okay, so I would like to make a motion for the creation of a select board appointed agricultural commission, which consists of 9 voting members with 2 alternates for staggered terms, with 4 members having 3-year terms, 4 members having 2-year terms, and 3 members having a 1-year term. I feel like the terms are wrong.
no, that's
No, I
11
think it's
total.
good.
So
Right.
I think we put the alternates in the 3 and 2 year, and
Okay. Do I have to say that?
I don't think so.
I think you're good.
I
Okay.
think you're good. And then,
I'll
You-
second that.
okay, all those in favor? Do we want to include in the motion, I'm sorry, I should have asked for discussion before.
Oh.
Do we want to include in there the roles and responsibilities, the vision?
In the motion? That feels like a big motion.
Well, I think well, we didn't have a discussion, so we've essentially created this committee with a name, but no,
Roles and
Can we make another
responsibilities.
motion?
sure, I think.
I can
so
amend.
I would entertain a new motion,
Okay.
to cover the terms, the responsibility or the goals of the agriculture, I can't talk tonight.
Agricultural commission.
Agriculture, the new commission. I'm sure, it's been a long day.
Can you just do it and I say so moved?
Sure,
Please.
to include acting as an advisory and recommending body to the select board, planning board, conservation committee, and other municipal committees and town staff on matters relating to agriculture in our community. Work on implementing strategies and actions identified in the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Periodically review the comprehensive plan and land use ordinances for provisions that relate to farming in order to identify, should say, well, I guess my question, farming or agriculture, but I'll leave it as farming for now. In order to identify potential barriers for farming and or agriculture, and identify opportunities to modify the documents to better support farming and or agriculture. Proposed modifications or amendments to the comprehensive plan and ordinances to better support farming and agriculture while protecting the health, safety, and welfare of all residents. recommend and facilitate broad public participation in changes to municipal policies and ordinances that affect farming and agriculture, and provide multiple opportunities for public input as each change is proposed. Research methods that other communities are using to support agriculture and farming, and share information and ideas with community leaders. Sponsors events related to local farming and agriculture, such as community suppers, farm forums, or workshops, or a harvest festival. Support local farms and participating in Open Farm Day and other statewide celebrations of local agriculture and farming. I'm happy to take an amendment of whether we say farming and agriculture, or we just call it one, and agriculture, and it encompasses, I think, farming.
Farming,
That's fine.
So,
yeah.
so I would, instead of farming, I would say agriculture.
Yes.
But that would be the motion. I would take,
I will so move it.
this is a tough meeting to come to, not feeling well.
I know,
Too
I'm
much
right
talking.
there with you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
I like it.
Okay, I do too. I think this is exciting.
Great.
And so, don't clap. We haven't got there yet. Wait. All those in favor? Okay, now you can clap. There we go. All right, so, you know what we didn't do?
Oh my gosh.
We did not put timeframes for the applications.
Oh, right. That's okay though, that doesn't have to be part of the motion.
Well, we need,
We can just state it.
yep.
So, it's not November, it's September 24th right now. I feel like it's responsible for us to leave it out there for 2 weeks.
So I'm trying to think of what our meetings are going to look like when we can. I mean,
Appoint.
these are, it's fairly simple if we get 11 or less applicants, but it sounds like they've got 20 on a working group to come to us,
Well,
so.
when it comes to, who's gonna actually do the work, that may change.
Right.
There's a
But,
lot of interested people, don't get me
Right.
wrong.
Right.
So.
Like yourselves,
Sign
there's people
of-
interested, but you're doing the work.
So, I guess, do we want to do 2 weeks or maybe a little bit longer so we can,
We could say applications open from October 1st to October 20th with appointment happening on the 29th.
I was gonna say the 22nd, because that,
We don't have a meeting on the
well,
22nd.
that's the next, that would be a week before our next meeting.
Oh, I see. Open till the 22nd?
Oh, and that gives you a week
And
to.
that gives us a week to review any
Right,
applicants.
Right.
So October 1st to October 22nd, and then we're gonna appoint on the 29th. Is that what you're saying?
I think so,
Yep.
yep.
Jerry?
Yeah, I'm writing it right down.
Okay.
What do the applications look like?
There's
they're
a
on-
standard application on the website.
Oh, nice.
And it will
I
go
just
under-
have someone, listen, have someone
looking
find
at
it.
Can we find it?
I'm
It
trying.
will also, I
Have
think,
someone find it and just mail it to your
I
whole
think
email
links
group.
will
Sure,
also
it'll be
be,
on the clerk's page too.
I think the links will also be provided in the weekly newsletter.
Okay.
Oh,
I
nice.
think
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there's links that have been provided.
Yeah.
We'll send out an update to the folks that have been involved,
Yeah.
just tell them, hey, this is,
Yeah,
The
because we've got a
non-
list
the
of people
non-official
who've come.
committee, yeah.
Yep.
That'll help too. Right?
Would we also plan on having a select board member participate?
Oh, a liaison?
Yeah,
We should,
Yeah.
by that
talk about that
point,
when those guys get back.
It's not on the clerk.
That'd be great too.
That's what I mean. It's not, I can't find, it's not there. Permits and applications?
Yeah.
Yep.
it's
Okay,
an
I'm looking,
application.
I'm looking.
It's not there? Committee,
Good.
Oh, no, committee minutes, no. Okay.
we all set?
but remember when
We
you
haven't done
searched
the
on the land
applications.
use ordinance in
I
the
know,
old one, you got
I'm
the wrong
I'm not
one.
disputing it with you,
So
right? I'm just
it's no different
saying.
than the other page.
Right, I know.
You're
It-
just not used to it yet, really, is what it
Well, we
really
can get
amounts
them,
to.
can't we just come to the office and get them paper
Yes,
copies?
Yeah.
but when
Once you
we
see
make
the
the post,
announcement,
the
it'll have a
announcement
link.
on the Facebook page, the newsletter, we could also, I don't know if it's an appropriate use of the text thing to say that we've created a okay, not
No,
that,
that's
never
not-
mind,
that's
forget
not-
that.
It's not
The
an
news,
emergency.
the news blast, the website, and the Facebook page.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah,
circulate
it'll be
that around
there.
as well.
And then maybe we'll talk about where we should add it on the website. I'm sure it's here, and I just can't find it right at the moment.
committee appointment application. fill in.
Where?
under documents, applications, and permits, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th.
Oh, you got it right there. Okay.
Right.
This is what it looks like. Okay.
Okay,
Okay. And it is on the website.
great.
All right, thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
thanks
you.
a lot.
Spending so much time
No,
with
that's
us.
very exciting.
Okay. Thank you guys.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
We're excited to have
Good,
you
good emailing with you.
What?
It was nice emailing with you back and forth.
Yeah.
We got it done.
And just to say too, yeah, like as we said, Maine Farmland Trust, they had a staff change, but I mean, I think, and Dave's actually, you're president of the board, right?
Well, chair. yeah.
Chair of the board, yeah, so, but, yeah, I think,
We're hiring someone new, they'll be on in October.
yeah, great, so they'll be able to support us, and I actually just talked to folks at Grow Smart Maine too, which also do some work around this, so they'll be able to support some of our work. So.
Okay.
you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
All right, Jerry, manager report.
Just, I told you just about everything that I had on my report already in the meeting, but I will continue to, I'll reiterate. So on October 7th, that starts the in-person absentee voting at the town office. So October 7th. Okay, and you'll be voting in the utility room, as best we got.
And that now will include the question we've,
Yes,
Vote on tonight.
yeah, Heather will email me the question, I'll give it to Devin, they'll include it, so we can put it in the,
okay,
so they have an opportunity to vote too. Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, so the chart of accounts and the vendor list has been imported into the new financial software. So they have all, it's really moving along pretty good. Hopefully we'll be getting some instruction from the company fairly quickly. The town of Farmington has also signed on. They're much bigger than we are. So I met with the president of the company last week. And Mark is really working with them more than I am, because Mark knows his stuff inside. And they really appreciate Mark, because Mark knows his stuff, so
I bet.
it's moving along pretty well, pretty excited about it. So I looked at, just before I came here today, I actually looked at our site, and you know how Mark puts all the cash flows and all that stuff, well, there it is, you can see it all. It's just up there now for looks, you can't really manipulate it or do anything with it. But they have our chart of accounts, which is a huge step in the process.
It's
So,
exciting.
yeah, it is. So I think you're gonna talk about the solid waste thing, but so there's an opportunity for the town to get what they call a clothes bin, where we can put in town, and people that are throwing away their old clothes, sneakers, bags, anything like that, can go in this bin. It's free. I just need to know if you folks want that to happen, where you would want the bin. And we don't have a lot of time because they're in high demand, so they're reserving one for us.
Is this through Casella?
No.
No. And they actually have two at Food City, and they have them in Cumberland. They're all over. It's
They're-
like,
they're all
it's
over.
like a Salvation Army bin, but
Right.
not. And apparently they are pretty good about pickup.
Right,
Like I was like, is there
right.
gonna be stuff laying around the bin?
Yeah.
But, yeah,
Is-
that was brought
Is
up
it
at the same-
donation?
You just,
You just
donate
throw
your
it in
stuff.
there. Unfortunately, I meant to bring a brochure with me, but I forgot to
think
do
I
it.
have
I just got, but, just know if you punt on it, we may lose that bin, and then we may be months or a year to get another one. I don't know if that's a scare tactic on their part, but I know Curtis in the transfer station, he would like more, and they don't have any for him, so they're trying to spread them out across everywhere, so it would just be a matter, and it's no cost to us. Zero cost.
Where would it go?
That's, you know, Calvin was thinking right at the Eureka Center. I mean, that's really up to you folks. Where do you think you might want it?
They
So,
talked about the Eureka Center at the Solid Waste Committee.
so
meeting.
I don't, you know,
My thoughts on where it should go is somewhere that is staffed somewhat, just so that it doesn't end up being a situation where people are throwing trash in it or whatever. I think that it should either go at Public Works or the town office. I just think it should be somewhere where there's eyes on it. Maybe, I don't think the fire department's appropriate, but.
I mean, yeah, my concern is Public Works is wintertime, storm, gets busy. I don't know if that's appropriate. Town office.
Like on the backside of the parking lot?
Well,
of the
they,
town
I mean, they
office?
have these all over the place. If there's gonna be people putting garbage and crap in there, it'll come up as an issue.
Yeah,
And they'll say, we're pulling it out or something.
yeah.
I think the Eureka Center is a nice spot because there's a lot of parking. It can go in the back somewhat, so
Central,
you can
too.
see it, but, and then everyone's driving by.
Does it affect? I guess where the Eureka Center itself open, the building, we're trying to rent that out. There's, that would be my concern with the Eureka
So if
Center.
there was a bunch of people parked there and that, you mean?
Right,
And like, if someone was renting it for whatever, they are sort of unsightly. I think they're great and I wanna do it, I just think if people are, I don't know.
I think Food City had, I feel like I saw that, like, as soon as you pull in, there's
they're
two
in the
right there.
parking lot.
I think it was Food City.
Now, I know what you're talking about, I can't.
They're white, well, at least the
They're
ones I
white,
saw were
yeah,
white.
they're
They're,
white, they're
they're
white.
nice lettering and
Yeah,
stuff.
they're
not-
fairly
they're not
neat.
eyesore.
Yeah,
Okay.
To,
At least
to
right
me,
now.
right,
to me, I think the best spot would be in town office near where the two trash cans are out front.
okay. I'm game if you're game.
I mean,
It's really up to you.
Will they move it
folks.
if we're finding that it's not
Yeah,
a good
we can,
spot?
yeah, absolutely. We can move it if we don't like where it is or if we're having issues.
I think it's a great idea. I have stuff to add to it right now.
Yeah, it really
Actually, I
does
do too.
move tonnage. from
Okay, do we
the
need a
garbage.
vote or what?
I don't think so. I think I can just call them up and say, yeah, please, drop one off at the town office. Someone will be here to let you know where we put it, and
Yeah.
that's no cost, so it's nothing
I
really.
think it's great. I mean, like
Yeah.
I said, I've
Yeah.
got bags of stuff and just don't go.
Yeah, sneakers, shoes, everything that can go in it.
Yeah, they had a preliminary flyer that we could use, so you probably got that and you'll
Right.
send that out or something.
Yeah, once we get it going, we'll have a news blast and that sort of thing on it.
Okay.
and Information on our website, and that it's available.
I think we're
And we can
good.
have something on that at the town office too, a little pamphlet to give folks to let them know that that's available.
In the
too.
new resident packet?
Yeah, we could do that too.
And a little sign at the election.
Yes, I do wanna talk about that, but I didn't put it on the list, so maybe that's gonna have to go on the list.
We can raise it.
The election plan, what?
Yeah, I'll bring it up in my board member report and then we can add it.
And the only thing that else I'll mention, I did end up investing $5 million of our money in Northeast Bank. Had to go to another bank because they had better rates. So we have a 3-month CD. So there's a 1.5 million in that. There's a 6-month CD, 1.5 million in that. And I put 2 million in what they call an insured cash sweep, so there's 2 million in that. So what happens is we left 2 million in our bank account. Andrew Scott wasn't real happy, but they should find better rates. But anyway, so what will happen is once we get down to about $1 million in our checking, it's a 24-hour turnaround to move money back into our checking so we can pay our bills. So then once 3 months is up, that money becomes available. And once 6 months comes up, that money becomes available. And it's estimated right now with the interest will be just maybe shy of 100,000 in interest that we'll make. So pretty excited. And we just locked in before the feds lowered the rate. So
Great,
pretty happy about that.
good job,
So we're doing much better with,
that's awesome.
with that. So.
Creative
just thought
ways
I'd
to
let you
make
know.
some more money, so.
It is, because I think, if we look, I'd have to go look at some of Mark's work, but I think we were only making like 30 total, and now we'd probably increase that by 30%, so that's good, if not more. If times it by 30%.
Right,
It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's good.
So,
Great.
thank you.
so, yep, that's pretty much all I
And you
have.
talked, you
Yeah,
talked,
let's-
we already talked about the new fiscal, the system, computer system. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
No.
That was it?
No,
Okay.
that's all I have. They have the, like I said, when they have your chart of accounts and vendors, that's a big part of that system, so.
I have 2 questions for Jerry, is that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
We received an email, about Devin being listed as the town clerk.
Yes.
Can we just, maybe I missed a conversation around that, is that something that we could just get updated on? If
Yeah.
there's some structure change or,
Well, he's basically doing the same thing he has been doing, just as a deputy clerk, because Jessica moved over to the,
So can you tell
So
him,
the
I mean, that was
deputy-
one of the things I was gonna mention, but yes.
so Jessica's moved up to be the deputy treasurer and deputy tax collector to pay our bills and take care of that. So that relieved her from her clerk duties.
okay,
So, and I had mentioned that when we had an employee resigned, I promoted the 2 part-timers to full-time. They're really doing the same thing, but Devin is now, instead of a deputy clerk, he is the clerk.
okay,
Kimberly is doing the same thing. She's always been a deputy clerk, a public information. She just has gone from part-time to full-time. That's really the biggest change. And you just see the email changes just because the emails have to go to the appropriate people.
okay,
But they all sort of do the same thing. I mean, Jessica gets up and does a lot of the clerk work because we're short, not short, but we don't have a lot of staff people, so they're all cross-trained to do the same thing, and they're
Right.
all kind of oathed in.
How does that work with the elections? I know Jessica has like a very specific,
He's your guy.
he's gonna teach
He's the guy now.
Okay,
He just went to training.
okay,
And of course, Jessica has been through that, so she's there to answer any questions or help him as he moves
I don't
along.
foresee that, I don't see this as a negative thing in any way,
No.
shape or form. I know like at the last election, we had, we're just saying her name is Jessica, obviously, she's our town, or she was our town clerk, and she was injured, and that put me in a kind of like what would happen if, God forbid, she couldn't attend that for some reason, right? The election has to go out, so I'm very happy that we're in a situation where we have multiple people that can perform those duties. I didn't know if I had missed a conversation or an update about that structure change taking place, so I just wanted to ask about it.
Not really, they're just the 2 part-timers got promoted to
Yeah,
full-time.
okay.
And they're essentially doing exactly what they were doing before.
Okay,
Just got a name change,
Okay.
position change, yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
I can't remember what the other question I had.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I can't remember what the other question is that I
And Devin's
had.
still smiling.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
And and I couldn't really promote them and give them any pay because I don't have any money in the budget to do it, which is kind of sad.
Yeah,
And I spoke with Jessica, she seemed excited about the change, and Devin did too, so.
Well, it's
That's good, that's
huge because our
exciting.
bills now are getting paid, much more accurately on time, which then just ripples right into putting together the budget. If we're not paying our bills accurately, it's very difficult to put together an accurate budget. Like I said, the one that I inherited when I got on here was, I knew that the numbers weren't right, but I didn't know what the numbers should have been. You have to go through a whole year to find out what the bills are to pay them, so you can then put together a budget. And I think we've done pretty good with the budget, actually, knowing that situation. And it's only gonna get easier as we go, because we got a better budget book. We have our, our budgeted numbers, actuals for a couple of years now, so it should be a little bit easier. Shouldn't be a whole lot of, well, there's always projecting, and you're kind of estimating what the next budget number will be, especially in an 18-month budget. That's why it's good that we have to get together and really talk about the budget more than we have in the past. I haven't really liked the process in the past. I think you all kind of know that, because you gotta have more, you folks have to have more input into the budget, so I'll be asking a lot of questions prior to the budget, like, what kind of services do you wanna have, the same, more, less, you know?
Yeah.
And so I can put it together with your input, so I don't have to put it together all by myself and then get your input. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to it this year, so.
Good.
Did you have an update to the magazine people?
I don't,
Okay.
they did email me, but those emails are still going with no real final thing that I can share with you, that's within.
Magazine?
The new business magazine.
Oh.
So, I don't have anything left on that.
Thank you. Board member reports. I was gonna congratulate Devin and Jessica.
Sorry.
No, that's, that's fine. So I have nothing else to add. I don't know if Heather, you have anything to add? I know Debbie does.
I just would like to have a conversation about what the election is gonna look like in terms of tables. What we, as a select board, are thinking that we wanna have available for information for residents, like how to sign up for texts, maybe this new bin flyer, you know, just that type of thing, and whether or not I'm more than happy to volunteer to be there the entire time. If someone needs to I think it's important. Anyway, this is what I wanna have a discussion about. I would like to have a discussion about what that looks like. And then also what the other boards having information available. Is that happening? I don't know. Anyway, can we just have a
So-
discussion about it?
So I don't, and I guess Devin can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure we can prohibit people from one, you know, other than candidates have to be a certain distance and can't say their name or something. I can't remember exactly. I don't think we can limit who has a table in the room. I don't,
As long as we get notice enough that we can prepare for it, you know, actually have a table for you, yeah.
so I think if
Wow.
someone wants a table, we need, what, 3 weeks notice so we can make sure where there's room and,
I think if you are okay with folks having a table, you can just say, yeah, have a table, and the staff can take care of that. Because I think you want to be careful about getting too much into the weeds of what the administration does versus your role as a select board. You are all policy people, and we take care of the administration, the
Right.
elections. And I know you want to know, but you gotta know where your boundaries are. And I think that's part of why I want to have Kristen come in, because I don't want to, get you upset because.
Nobody's gonna get upset.
No, we're kind of getting.
You can
some
see
of
where
these-
we're gray in some areas, so having the roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, and you really are at that policy level. Like in the boards and committees, like I said in my email, we don't have the authority to say, oh yeah, sure, put a table up wherever you want it. That would have to come from you folks, because
Well, that's what I'm
Are we
asking.
just gonna
Right,
move this to an
so-
agenda item?
if that's what you want, you just let us know. and
So
we can
now I
take
feel
care of it.
confused about the answer.
I don't think we can limit, I think we can limit the offensive thing. It's gonna be in a school, it's gotta be school appropriate, but I think that comes down to now Devin, and if there's an issue, if he sees an issue with somebody who wants to have a table, he has contacts for the appropriate people to reach out to and say, is this something we can prohibit, or do we have to allow it? And so, I think Devin can also say it's too late, I can't ensure space. But, I think it's also important to remember that, I think we have rules for where we can be, so I don't think people can set up outside the school, but that's something, they reach out to Devin, and maybe, I think Devin, but if they reach out to you, you refer them to
I'm gonna
Devin,
go to Devin, right?
and he gets that say, I don't, so
So
I think,
I-
I don't think that, I don't think that we make a policy, I think that's, sort of up to
So I
Devin and
apologize
Lee.
if I was unclear, but when I got the email about this, I thought, okay, well, what is this gonna look like if all of the boards and committees want to have tables? And then
Right.
also what is, right? And so that's why I'm saying, I just wanna have a discussion about what that looks like. I'm not trying to micromanage
No,
your
no.
job.
Right.
I read that email and I thought, this warrants a conversation. That's what I'm,
So, I mean, I will tell you personally, I'm not sure it's appropriate for boards to have, to be out there, that's a question. But we don't have a policy on it, and I don't think, it's not an agenda item, so it's not something we can vote on tonight to make a
Right.
policy. I think, information can be provided from the boards to be at a table. I think, I mean, should boards be there? I don't know, I mean, cause they're sort of representing the town at these elections, and then, I can foresee a number of concerns with people with stickers and,
this is why I wanted to have a discussion
so,
about it.
Right.
but I think that is something we'd have to have on the agenda. Otherwise, it's up to Devin unless we dictate something, and then we'd have to be careful that we're not, violating First Amendment rights and all that stuff.
Right.
So, in my opinion, I think for now, we leave it up to Devin and trust his judgment. And he's got people he can reach out to, and if he
Right.
doesn't, I can certainly help put him in contact with the right people.
And that's what we'll do, is we'll have him reach out to the election
Yeah,
folks.
cause they're,
Yeah, so just if I can say this, my plan, since it's my first election, I'm gonna be as accommodating as I can, and I have people at the Division of Elections. I'm gonna listen to what they say. So if
Exactly.
there's something that seems gray to me, I'm gonna ask them. They've been really helpful so far, so I'm gonna go based off state law, whatever they say I can do.
I
It's a
think that's,
great answer.
I think,
They're
yeah,
heavily regulated, so.
yeah,
Right.
and that's I think that's a great division, because I think they're very responsive and helpful. So, I think that's a good plan, so, do we need, I think if we want to talk about regulating it more than
No,
than
that's
that,
not,
then
that's not what I was
no,
trying to do.
know, I know. No, no,
I just wanted to have a discussion about what that looks like, because I don't know, not because I'm not trusting that you're all gonna do the right thing. I just got that email and I thought, what does this look like if now the planning board wants to have a table to talk about their stuff?
Exactly.
If the historic district commission wants to, but then also we as a board had talked about having the opportunity to educate residents on the new texting service and having the opportunity, have that information available, and then be able to have the QR code for people to, whatever, and we never closed that loop. And so I just was wanting to have a discussion, not tonight, I'm just bringing up the fact that I would like to have a closing loop conversation, not because I'm trying to micromanage what you're
No, no,
doing
right,
at
I
all.
get it.
I'm just trying to get an idea of, am I gonna have to man that day to be able to have that information available to residents? Is that what we're still doing? Is that appropriate? And then what is all this other stuff gonna look like in terms of the boards that are interested in having information available there?
Right.
No, I think Jerry knows that we want that information, and it will be present.
I'll have Devin research how many, if that's even possible, and where you're allowed to be within the election.
Right, because
How
there's
many
also,
boards and committees can have tables and,
because there's also the issue of where you can be at the school, so.
right?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we could do that. Anything else that you
So wait,
wanted?
though, are we gonna set a meeting for follow-up? Another discussion is gonna be on the agenda, manager's report?
I don't think we need to follow up on what I think we've told Jerry what we want there, and I think it's the expectation that it will be there. So, I don't know that we need to follow up on it.
Oh, what do we want
Okay.
there?
So,
Planning board
question, so if they say, yes, you can have boards and committees there at your election. Just,
I don't think there's anything prohibiting that. I think, you know, I think we need to make sure that people are appropriate and apolitical when they're there.
Can you, I think we should have it as an agenda item to discuss the,
yeah,
how we handle that.
well, let's get information for you first, I
Okay.
think. And we can disseminate that via email.
Okay,
Not for discussion, just give you the information on
okay.
if it's allowed, when it's allowed, how many, where they need to be, and
Okay.
then you can go from there.
And then maybe what we end up doing is just, if it's allowed, how many, whatever, if it's wide open, we distribute to the committees the appropriate expectations or whatever the rules are about being apolitical and not, and answering people's questions about the information just that way.
Yeah.
We're not, I think it's inappropriate if they're there trying to influence voters. That needs to be clear, that if people are there to be able to provide information, they need to be providing information in a non-biased way, not in a mechanism to try to influence voters. That's what I'm getting at? Okay, okay.
Yep.
And there are laws around that, so
Right.
people who are there should know that. And it, again, that's not our job to tell them. That's, you know, we're all presumed to know the laws, so.
Why have anyone there? Anyway, okay.
Okay. That's all I have, I think.
Good.
Debbie, what I
Okay,
read.
okay, so I went to my first solid waste, committee meeting. It was good. I think this was the third meeting that they had. There was confusion on, they have confusion on startup. Does every member know there's a meeting? There were people who didn't come because they didn't know there was a meeting. I'm not sure if everyone's getting an email, that type of thing. But, yeah, overall it was pretty good. I, understood kind of where they were headed. They have their charter that they're gonna mark up with some changes based on the email that Heather, you sent to our group. I went over that with them, and the next meeting, so they'll be meeting monthly, and the next meeting is the third Wednesday of next month, which is gonna be at the Eureka Center. We need to make
Yep.
sure that gets reserved, and then they're gonna move to the second Monday of every month, hopefully here. And Curtis needs to get squared away with his role as far as, you know, getting the agenda out and the meeting minutes posted and all of that stuff through you, through your team, so. Yeah,
Anything else?
no?
Okay. Consent agenda, is there a motion?
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
A second?
All in favor? Right.
I've been doing a lot of seconds tonight.
I've been doing a lot of motions.
All right, upcoming meetings, there's a planning board meeting October 2nd here at the fire station at 6:30 PM. Our next two meetings are October 8th, which is a change in our normal schedule, and October 29th, those will both be here at 6:30. And again, the solid waste committee's meeting Monday, October 21st,
Yes.
at the Eureka Center at 6:30. Is there a need for executive session?
No.
No? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you. We are.